People in the U.S. Northeast are facing an onslaught of heavy rain and strong winds from Hurricane Sandy as it pushes inland. Several municipalities in the storm's path have declared a state of emergency. Some residents of New York City have been forced to evacuate, and officials have shut down the city's mass transit.
Atlantic City in New Jersey is bracing itself. Across the state, public transport has been shut down, low-lying areas have been evacuated, and schools are closed.
Yeah, I'm far enough away from the water, I don't think I'm going to have a problem. So, don't like the wind, but what are you going to do?
Gusts of 140 kilometers per hour have been measured just over 600 kilometers away from New York City.
I think it's ridiculous. Like, New York City is the melting pot of people just going to work and trying to make a living, and we can't even get around publicly.
Sandy could be the largest ever storm to hit mainland America, and the president has declared emergencies in New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island and Pennsylvania.
These are the latest satellite images taken of the storm by NASA. Public services in New York City are being suspended, and 375,000 people there have been told to leave their homes.
If you look right behind us, all that is New York Harbor, and where we're standing right now, this water is just about 3 feet from coming up over where we are, and if we're expecting a 4 to 10 foot storm surge, well, okay, enough said about that. Now, we'll also talk a little bit about that Amtrak and subway issue. Travel, no matter how you're thinking about traveling, roads, trains like Amtrak, they're all susceptible to trees down, power lines down, flooding and road closures like that. Even the New York City subway stations are a little concerned because, as we've just told you, if you're looking at about 3 feet of water before it tops the area here, all that water runs where? Into subways, and that's their biggest concern, that they may have to close down buses, may have to close down subways. There's a lot of weather problems and a lot of effects from the weather that will be involved in this storm. It's not just the storm surge, it's wind, it's flooding rains, and then it's the kickback. More rain will run off from wherever that heavy rain is going. So there's a lot, and even that little bit of snow that we think will hit in higher elevations as well. So with all of that, let's show you where the track of this storm is so that you're prepared for exactly where it's going. Right on track. Hurricane Center hasn't changed much at all in the last couple of updates, knowing this thing is curving up the coastline by Monday, making that turn, they believe, that left-hand turn that would take it onto the Jersey Shore, making its landfall anywhere from the Jersey Shore, central New Jersey, all the way up toward probably somewhere in Long Island.
The streets around Ground Zero are deserted as people either leave or take shelter indoors.
You know, don't try to go out there and be a hero or act as if there's nothing going on here. Something is happening, it's important, and we need to have you stay inside.
With precautionary measures in place, there's very little anyone can do but sit and wait.
Hurricane Sandy is roaring up the eastern coast of the United States. It's expected to turn sharply inland sometime today, crashing into cold fronts from the west and north that will turn it into a monster storm. The prospect prompted a warning from the highest level.
My main message to everybody involved is that we have to take this seriously. The federal government is working effectively with the state and local governments. It's going to be very important that populations in all the impacted states take this seriously, listen to your state and local elected officials.
President Obama has to oversee the hurricane response in the midst of an election. How he handles the crisis could impact the result. The storm is also disrupting campaign stops and early voting schedules. And it's clearing the shelves of supermarkets in New York, one of the major cities in its path. Residents have scrambled to stock up on torches, batteries, and tinned food. The low-lying areas of the city could see serious flooding, including the financial district. The New York Stock Exchange will close its trading floor, but continue electronic transactions.
FEMA estimates the cost from this superstorm could range in the billions of dollars, from $2.5 billion to this $3 billion. And FEMA, by the way, if you don't know, stands for the Federal Emergency Management Agency. This basically springs into action when natural disasters like Sandy here hits. And this here is an estimate just from wind damage and doesn't account for flooding. Some sources we're hearing say that could be an additional $1 billion that could be tacked on. Now, as Sandy barrels closer to the U.S. East Coast, as you mentioned, all stock markets have now decided to close. This is actually the first time since 1985 that this has happened. The New York Stock Exchange had first said it would stay open only for e-trading, for electronic trading, but customers had actually complained that partial closures would just be too complicated to handle. Now, the New York Stock Exchange did release a statement about 4 hours ago saying the dangerous conditions developing as a result of Hurricane Sandy will make it extremely difficult to ensure the safety of our people and communities. And, of course, the safety of everyone must be our first priority. By the way, the NASDAQ is also closed for Monday. Markets may be closed on Tuesday, October 30th as well. But, of course, that depends on the track of the storm because, as you mentioned, it still hasn't even hit yet.